Hey guys, this is a quick video tutorial on how to fake realistic painting. I'm leaving this ambiguous enough to the point where you could use any other program other than Photoshop. I did this with Sai, but with these tools you can pretty much do in any program where you can fake it until you can make it. First you need a hard brush pen, a soft brush, and a blur tool. First make a rough sketch and colour in the flat colours beneath your sketch layer. Your sketch doesn't have to be perfect, the messier the better, you'll be painting over it soon enough anyway. There's nothing wrong with duplicating your sketch layer if you need it as a backup just in case. Okay, once you've filled in all your base colours, all you have to do is just combine your sketch layer with all your other layers. Okay, so first off you start with the skin and then you build on top of it as you go. I colour pick the skin colour and then I change the hue to get the perfect shade. You don't have to stay confined to just one layer, you can actually use layers on top of it and then just combine them all after. It'll make it much more easier to shade it and blur all the colours together without them getting muddy. Okay, another more thing you have to do for this technique is use fringing. Fringing is when you have a shape that has a thin, darker colour surrounding it. For the hands here, I blurred around the darker edges and then overlaid it with a lighter colour. It doesn't matter if it looks bad so far because you can fix it and refine it later on. Use a blur tool or in Paint Tool I use watercolour. This blurs the edges but also use the brush to harden certain light edges. This is like a technique that other people use as well and it's called a hard brush and light brush. So it's where some things are blurry while some things are used with a sharp edge just to make it pop and stand out. Then later on you can put in the details to further define the image. Use your sketch as a reference to know where to put the shadows and to use the dark lines. Use your sketch to the advantage. You can also use the erase tool to sharpen edges and to make thin line art. Okay, so for the rest of the skin, all you had to do is just follow your guidelines and fill it in the way that you want to. You just use the same technique as the hands where you just use brushing, watercolours blurring, and you just refine it as you go. Don't be afraid to completely colour over your guidelines because even though they're there to help, you don't actually have to keep them there. So if you want to get rid of the guidelines, if it helps assist you, then that's all you have to do. You could easily just blur them out or just completely colour over them completely. The point is to make enough space to the point where you can actually easily erase or remove things without disrupting the whole piece. Okay, for the face, use a darker skin colour and define the face shape. For the nose, I made a block of colour and just blur the top, and then block the edge of the face and shade underneath the eyes as well as the curves of the mouth. Then use the watercolour tool to soften the edges. Don't worry if it's messy, the blur tools will sort all that out. Work the rough areas and soften them out. If you shade over your sketch and lower the opacity with any colour, then your black line art would change to that softer colour instead. That way you can have one patch of colour together instead of having any rough dark outlines. What I mean for this sketch is that I use brown on top of the dark layer, that way I got a darker brown instead of having any black spots in the final illustration. You can move the lines and recolour them as a part of a shadow. The thing is though, if your hand does start to cramp up and you regret everything you've done, you can stop and just change your process and just reline out the whole picture and just colour underneath it. Because if at any point you just don't like what you're doing, you can actually stop at any time and then just do what you're comfortable with. Okay, use your sketch guide for where all the darker colours should go and don't be afraid to change your colour palette as you colour along the way. The thing is you can use your colour picker and pick in between colours between your sketch layer and your coloured layer. That way you can actually get more colours through your palette. Okay, so I colour in threes, and it's mostly light, medium, and dark. Basically it's just the shine, the base, and the shadow, and it's just the three working in harmony to create a fully coloured illustrated piece. Okay, you do have to remember how basic shadows work. If a head is sit on top of the neck, then there will be a shadow underneath, you know, the neck. So you have to pick a direction you're comfortable in, even if it's your usual go-to shade, and it doesn't matter if you're being cliche or you're doing the same thing. What's it like? Same shading syndrome, same as like same face syndrome. It's like as long as you're doing realistic stuff and like you're trying this for the first time, any type of shading is fine. It's like as long as like this becomes comfortable enough to the point where you want to try new things, you can change the shadows and mess around. But for your first go, just pick up what you're comfortable with. You don't have to make it hard on yourself or be overly ambitious. Just go with the flow and be comfortable with what you want. Just go with the flow and stick with what you know. Okay, I figured this out by watching a makeup tutorial, which is where you just colour the bottom cheeks of the face with dark and then use an airbrush on top with a lighter colour just to define them. Soften them away or lower the opacity if they start looking like the mummy. If you start to struggle, you can actually erase like anything or overcolour the whole skin, for example, and then just like overlay the clothes on top. Like it's much more easier to like work on the skin, shade it, and then add on the layer of clothes rather than colouring around it. That way you'll always have like patchiness or uncoloured areas that'll make it stick out like a sore thumb. I almost forgot this, but also remember to make like face shines. But here I put like a shine in the nose, and then underneath the shine I'm kind of putting like a darker colour just to make it pop out. And here I avoided the mouth because it was giving me trouble. Once you have the line work, just go over it. Change the line art layer to a colour that matches the skin, like a dark brown, and then just like coloured over it with the brush tool and was able to soften out the edges just to make it look more like a part of the piece than something that was just slapped on. I used the brush tool to soften the edges. That way I realised that the mouth was too low on the face, so I had to erase it, and then I had to like reposition it so it didn't look like it was too far down. The best thing is to leave like lots of gaps in your pieces, that way you can like shift and move things around without, you know, disrupting or like affecting any big details to the point where you'll have to like start all over again just for erasing like one little thing. Okay, if like me you find yourself overworking something and find yourself stuck on a certain part for a long time, like almost an hour, then I think it's decide to put it down and leave it and come back to it with fresh eyes or once you're taking a break. Seriously, I was taking so long on the chest, it was really starting to stress me the F out. So at that point, like I just stopped and I was like, okay, after this I'm gonna stop, after this I'm gonna stop, and I was pretty much there for like half an hour and I was like, okay, after this I'm definitely gonna stop and work on something else. I'll just do a few more details, and then I just left it. Like it really got me nerves. Like I hate her chest so much, I just wish she was flat chested. Totally off topic, but loads of people online have been saying I have a style, but I keep changing how I colour the eyes so much to the point where I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. I pretty much colour like all these people on the screen, because like I don't know how to say their names, but you guys know who I'm talking about, and I keep changing it all the time to the point where I feel like I don't really have a style. I just do it because I think it's cute, and it's like, you know, it's aesthetically pleasing. I don't really do it because I'm aware of it. Speaking of eyes, all I have to do is just blur the rim around the eyes, but not too much, just the edges, just to soften it up a bit. And then you add in the pupil, make it blurry a bit, and then add a new layer, do like a dark shadow on top of it, like an anime, and then just erase the circle part around the pupil just a little bit. I use the lighter colour to make a ring around the pupil, but you can do your own style or do it the way that you prefer to colour. I use an airbrush to touch at the bottom of the eye and use an overlay to make the colour much more warmer. Instead of like a harsh like cold light, I used a warmer light just to make the eye pop. Then I added shinies to the eyes with fringes. Don't forget your fringes. And also I added like a grey layer on top. You don't have to do this because sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes adding like a grey oval and blurring it out a bit at the top does have a lovely reflective light, but sometimes it doesn't look that great. So sometimes I use it, depending on the piece, sometimes I don't. Okay, so we're finished with the eyes and the skin. Now it's time to work on the fringe. Well, not the actual fringing, but I mean like the hair fringe. And what I realised halfway through that I had too many tangents. Tangents is when the whole picture looks smushed together and there's too many elements colliding with one another. So I had to go in, go through some details, start making space between some of them to the point where they're not, you know, in each other's way. And it's more room to breathe for the image. Okay, I learned this from KNKL and Kawaccy. This is a technique where you don't slap a light and dark colour together and call it a shadow and call it a day. The thing is, what you do is, you know that fringing technique? Well, it's that again, but this time it's more blurred out and softer. Usually it's used as a buffer, and the colours sometimes are soft orange or other colours that way it's used to make the piece feel, you know, warmer. And here in the picture here, there's a shadow underneath, you know, and right above that, right underneath that shadow, is like a softer colour. So that way it's not just like two colours together, it's like 3 different layers to it. So you have the shadow, the buffer, and then the overall picture that has the light reflecting off the top. And also, if you're shading black, you don't actually like use any other colours like grey or whatever. Sometimes you could either use blue or a softer brown. Either way, it's like when you don't shade with black, but when it comes to black, you use a different colour just to shade that. So that way, like, you add, you know. Okay, here I pretty much go over the details with a fresh eye and start cleaning up on areas I think I missed. Here you need an eraser tool to get rid of the sketchy areas you didn't completely colour over yet. And also just clean up and fixing it before you move on to anything else. Okay, the hair. Okay, if you're coloring 2 things that look identical, like eyes, space bones, then colour them both at the same time. I did not, and suffered for it, since when you colour something, you forget how you did it, and you have to struggle to recreate it when you do it again. Which is what I did when I did the second space bone. I almost cried. Truthfully, I don't really know how I can explain how I did the hair, because I've been shading hair like a certain way for so long to the point where it's second nature. So I don't really know how I could like make a tutorial for it, but all I can see is if you use your sketch guidelines and you've done it in place before, you could probably like use them as a guide on how to like shade and colour them in. All I know is with my brush tool is that I do a dark colour and then I put a lighter colour on top and fade the opacity. That way it's like an in-between colour. So it's like anime style, but sometimes I actually learned this from Ayami the Devil. I learned this from Ayami the Devil, how she shaded hair, and she did great until she disappeared off YouTube. I don't know where she went, but like if you can watch her videos, like when it comes to colouring, every single thing I've learned from her, and that's how I like colour hair. Also, when you're colouring in, don't add too many details. It turns out the more simpler it looks, the better. Also, this character, totally off topic, by the way, was based on something I was planning to do. I created a bunch of characters for the asexual spectrum for Pride Month, and well, I ended up coloring the sketches for a thumbnail. These were thumbnail sketches. They weren't supposed to be the final illustration, but then they became the final illustrations. At that point, I kind of just cried. I was planning a video for all of them because they weren't meant to be this. Like, I was supposed to make a full video with all of these characters, and I was supposed to redraw them from when I made these characters in 2017. So yeah, that didn't pan out. You know, that's life, I guess. Well, this character in general was the heteroromantic. Their flag is black and white, hence the cool scheme. I have all the other characters and will upload them soon to my Twitter, DeviantArt, Instagram, etc. Actually, on second thought, I think I might not bother with Twitter. I think I might leave it because Twitter's getting a bit toxic lately, so I think I'm just gonna back away in case it turns into another Tumblr incident again. Okay, at this point I pretty much got lazy with the claws, just couldn't be bothered, so I kind of merged everything into one layer and just started colouring in and blurring over all the sketchy lines and just blurred everything together. The truth is that the darker the lines were, the more I was able to turn them into the actual shadows themselves, so sometimes lazy actually works. Also, I made the inside colour of her jacket to be like a lighter blue, just to like give it that contrast and not to have it like sit there boring. It actually made the piece look much more nicer and more professional than I gave it for. So there you have it, colouring a flat colour illustration without line art. If you can fake this, then one day you might probably make it. But until then, I think I'll just keep fucking around on Psy until it kind of looks like I did this in Photoshop, because fuck Photoshop. No longer liking Photoshop. Photoshop is a pain in the arse and I hate it because I can't understand it, but mostly because I really don't like it. So that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on that. Well, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Also, during this video, I really tried to make myself sound perky like I usually do, but for some reason, no matter how hard I tried, My voice was coming out like a deadpan, unemotional teen. Like, I really don't understand it. So I hope that didn't affect the whole video and made it hard to watch, because I sounded like I was like unhappy and would rather be anywhere else but here making this video. That's not the case. I did want to make this video. I did enjoy it, but my voice is not cooperating with me right now. Like, even here when I'm trying to explain myself, even my voice still sounds dead inside. It's funny because the previous video I kind of sound like I was possessed by a yandere for some reason, and now in this video I kind of sound like I've been possessed by a kudere, because like nothing's coming out the way I wanted to. So yeah, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video. Bye!